Welcome back to Tottenham on Tour's Christmas Advent Calendar, and it is a day that everyone is going to enjoy. Everyone is going to enjoy this. It is day number 8. So, of course, we're going to be talking about players that wore the number 8 shirt. So, obviously, it's an entire show on Eve Basuma. No, it's not. We're going to talk about the famous players that wore the number 8 shirt. And we've got an eclectic mixture of you. Joining me, as usual, is Mr. Dagul. Aki, how are you today? How are you today?
I am very, very good. This is when we came up with this idea. I had one number and one number in mind. And I had 2 guests I wanted to bring on with us.
Yeah.
For this. And look at it. It's like my Christmas has all come at once.
Yeah. It's our favourite Christmas. Joining us today, we've got Mr. Good Morning Tottenham Away. We've got Iggy. How are you doing today, buddy? How are you doing? Long time no see, but great to have you on.
Great to be on. Very happy to be on this show, on this number, and I look forward to speaking about Chris Waddle.
Yeah.
Dear.
And finally, we got your favourite teddy bear on the show. Most likely going to be talking about Harry Winks. We've got Kuva. Big up, mate.
I'm more of a Kevin Scott man myself.
Yeah. He certainly is. But it's Tottenham on Tour's Christmas Advent Calendar. So we're going to start with the Christmas crackers. You boys got your Christmas crackers ready?
Got your jokes?
Got your jokes? We'll start with you, Iggy. What is your Christmas cracker of this wonderful day?
Oh, my Christmas cracker! I need someone to pull it for me.
Carry on tour. Carry on tour. There we go. Iggy, what's your joke, brother?
My joke. Let me think of a good one.
It's got to be a Christmas cracker one. Whilst you're thinking, or Google it. Google it whilst we're...
Yes. Let's do that. Yeah, I think I might have to do that. I might have to do that. I should have been more prepared.
You should have. This is great TV. The blooper reel.
Mr. Dagul, what is your Christmas cracker joke?
My Christmas cracker joke. What do you call an old snowman?
I don't know.
A puddle.
I was going to say Water Riley or something, but
you're close.
Oh, that's terrible.
That's what. Bum.
Mr. Kuva, what is your Christmas cracker joke?
I'd forgotten to look one up in advance, so I thought I'd make one up while you were talking. And let's go with what did the sheep say to the giraffe in the flood? No, the sheep says to the giraffe in the flood, do we know anyone with a boat? And the giraffe says, I know a guy.
Oh God, that was amazing. That I do like that one.
Oh, for God. We're not going to... Please let us know who was your favourite Christmas cracker joke. Whilst Iggy finds his one, I will do my one. My one. What did the farmer get for Christmas?
What did the farmer get for Christmas? Not a clue.
A calculator.
Right. We have the best players, or the best player. We've definitely got the worst jokes so far today.
Definitely, we do.
Apart from Kuva's. Go on, Iggy. You've got a
one. What did Santa do when he went speed dating? He pulled a cracker.
Oh, Jesus. The way you tell him.
I love it.
Right. We'll get the show on the road, Ben.
Let's get the show on the road.
All right.
We're killing everyone with that.
It's going to be an education.
Let's just do an hour of these.
Yeah, well, mate, you've just given away the Christmas Day special. You've just given away. We're just doing it for 24 hours. Right, first player. As we know, we're going to talk about 5 players that have played and worn the famous number 8. Have to start with a legend that was taken far too early from us. It's Mr. John White. Ben, take it away, sir.
Firstly, I love that picture. That's a classy picture. The whole blazer with we need to go back to uniforms like that when they.
I would say, Ben, I actually think that might have been him getting ready to go speed dating with Iggy back in the day.
Yeah, damn right. I'm taking away the that was.
I love the Spurs badge. I think that's the Spurs badge.
I love it. If they started wearing that, I would be like so proud of them, like Man United do with their kit. But John White, of course, I can't talk about him as a footballer because he joined in 1959, and I wasn't even a thought when he joined Tottenham. My dad wasn't even alive. That's how far away it was. But look at his record: 183 games, 40 goals. The double win inside, 2 FA Cups and 1 cup. This is a legend. This was a guy who was a stalwart in the Bill Nicholson side of the early 60s. And we can't really say much more, really. But great career. And as you said, it was taken too early from us. Taken well too early. But I wish we had a player now that had 1 league title, 2 FA Cups and a European trophy. It'd be brilliant.
Wish we had one of them. Just one trophy. Don't be greedy, Ben.
Be greedy.
Oh, be greedy. Be greedy.
Iggy.
Who do we want to go for next, Brian?
Go Iggy. Go Iggy.
Let's go Iggy. Let's go clockwise and be boring.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about John White?
Well, look, sadly, I mean, I just looked him up a little bit just to find. It's just tragic. It's just the tragic. I mean, it's not funny, but it's just tragic. Therefore, 27 years old, you know, in the most unbelievable way. But we don't want to go in too much. I mean, people can look it up. It's not a problem. Now you can find anything out on Google these days. But 27 years old, you know, young player. Like you said, is a Scottish international as well. But yeah, was it 183 games for Spurs? So it's just a shame that everything came at, you know, a short and tragic end. But yeah, I would love to know a little bit more about him. I mean, it's great. I said a great photo and a great badge there that they had. But yeah, I'd love to hear if you guys got any stories, and I would definitely love to know more about him.
Oh, if we're going clockwise, I'll go there. All I know is my grandpa. He was my grandpa watched him a lot, bless him, and used to say this guy was a wizard. This guy was a wizard, and had it all. And you got to remember, these kind of flair players back then weren't playing on the pitches we were playing on now. Weren't playing with the footballs we are playing with now, and the tackling that went on back then compared to now. Today's league, they'll probably end up with 2 men each, the way they were tackling back in the day. A very, very speedy player that my grandpa would talk for hours and hours on end. And like you said, he was taken far, far too soon. One of the things you can do, there's videos on him on YouTube and clips of him, but obviously the footage isn't great. But if you speak to anyone, even your parents, if they're of our age kind of thing, as in you're the age of us now, your parents are in their 60s, 70s, whatever, their parents would have told them about John White. And he sounds like he would have been a complete, total, utter legend. And that trophy haul would have been a lot more should he have been able to fulfill his career and life.
Yeah.
And finally, Kuva, what do you know about John White? What do you know about him?
Bit before my time, unfortunately. It's one of my greatest regrets that I wasn't born to see the 60s side we had. But my dad, being a mad Spurs fan all his life as well, told me an awful lot about the player. As everybody knows, he was called the Ghost of White Hart Lane. He always had a knack of being in the right place at the right time. And people compared Glenn Hoddle to him in a lot of ways. I think Cliff Jones talked about him one time, saying it's probably the closest you could get to Glenn Hoddle, as close you could get to John White. But you would have to bring Glenn Hoddle into a game, whereas John White would bring himself into a game. My dad used to say, as an inside forward, you think of the best wide players in the world today and just ignore them all, because John White was way better. He said a lot of people rated him as the greatest player we've ever had, and that includes the legendary Jimmy Greaves and Danny Blanchard and Dave McKay. He was right up with the best of them. In fact, John White was being groomed to take over from Danny Blanchflower as the instrumental player in the team, the captain, the all-round player. Absolute tragedy when he was killed. Got caught in a thunderstorm when he was out on a golf course in Enfield. And
he was sheltering under a tree.
Yep.
Thinking about it.
And the little anecdote here isn't really a fun one, but my mum was working in Enfield that day, remembers the storm, and actually knows which bolt of lightning ended him. She said it sent a shudder down her spine at the time, and it just became so much more poignant afterwards, because she felt something had just happened there that was really bad. True enough, it had ripped the guts out of the future of the team for the 60s in a lot of ways. That tragedy and Dave McKay breaking his leg, they always said there was only two ways to really stop Tottenham back in the 60s, and that was you had to either get the players off the pitch somehow, or it was a really muddy pitch, because we used to, back then, a lot of teams would still be humping the ball through the air and playing the old school style with big centre forwards. We still had a big centre forward in Bobby Smith ourselves, but we used to get the ball on the deck and just pass it around. It's what I understand as, it's what I've always known as the Tottenham way. Get the ball on the ground, slick passing, attacking football. It all stemmed from the 50s when Arthur Rose started it, and then the Super Spurs in the 60s. John White was a massive part of that.
Yeah, there we go. So we're going to move on to the next guy. This is a little bit more. We've spoken about a lot of double acts, haven't we, Ben, during this?
Yeah, we have.
And this is a big double act, or one part of a double act. One would be Garth Crooks and his partner in crime. We'll take good care of you.
Archibald.
Ben, go on, take it away, sir.
Again, it's another player I can't really talk about, but look at the record. Again, I wish we had two players that won a player that won two FA Cups in the UEFA Cup. I'd bloody love it, but played for Barcelona in the 80s before he joined Tottenham, and a hell of a football player. We talked about double acts a lot. Tottenham is a team that loves double acts. We always have a Berbatov and a Keane, a Sonny and a Kane, Greaves and Gildine. Bobby Smith. Bobby Smith's partner was
Terry Dyson.
Yeah, Terry Dyson.
Levy and failure.
Wow. There you go.
There you go. But we're a team that loves double acts, and he was certainly one of them. And he was a brilliant football player. Only 58 games for Tottenham, but we still remember him as a top player for us with Garth Crooks. And you can't really say much more for someone of my generation, but we'll go to Iggy. I don't know how much you know of Steve Archibald.
He's got very resembling beard to you. I did spot that. If you had the hair to go with it, that'd be awesome as well. Like, I would see an Archibald resemblance in you, Mr. Kaufman. But no, listen. All winners at Spurs are remembered. Anyone who has lifted up a trophy with Spurs will always be remembered. They go down the history books. He won two trophies. I know he shared a Charity Shield as well. Yeah. He also went to Spain, won with Barcelona, won the Liga there as well. So, a Scottish international. Listen, it's a shame that it was just before my time. I was born late 70s, so I don't remember. And obviously, I lived a bit that first sort of 8-9 years in Italy before I came to England. So I missed that. My earliest memories are Waddle, Clive Allen. That's my earliest memories of Spurs. So I just missed that generation, but a winning generation. My God, what I would do to just see
Yeah.
see one, see half of those trophies come
Mate.
back to White Lane.
Mate, you look at it. There's a Spurs video. Kuva, I don't know if you saw it, when Spurs celebrated their 100 years. They brought out Spurs, the history 100 years, and it's got a lot of Archibald and Crooks in it. There's also Terry Venables, the late, God bless him, Terry Venables brought out Spurs Ultimate 11, where he was the manager and he picked the team, and he waxes lyrical about Archibald.
Yeah.
Him and Crooks, I mean, Kuva's going to know more. You talk about lethal partnerships, the Shearer and Sutton, like you said, the Kane and Son, Suarez and Stud. There were devastating partnerships that just complement. Sheringham and Klinsmann.
Yeah, it's another topic.
This was this day and ages for the whole league. These two, I think, had one, maybe 2 seasons where defenders just couldn't handle them. And this one, Crooks was more pace. This man was more skill. He had such guile, and he had a brilliant. Kuva will tell you a bit more. His turn of he could just change direction on a sixpence. He was lethal. He was lethal, and like Iggy said, just before our time, me and Iggy, when we were born, we won 4 trophies before we were 4 years old, and then we won 4 for the remaining 40 odd. So we 4 years. Bloody parents! I blame the parents.
Festive. Remember, it's festive season.
I blame the parents. Kuva, Archibald.
Yeah, I kind of get the different impression to you in some ways, Brian, because Archibald, for me, he was one of these players that, kind of like Berbatov, he reserved his energy for when he needed it. Okay. And then when he did need it, it was like flash of lightning. He was on the things really quick. Perhaps it was deceptively quick. It's always the last impression I had of him. Crooks was more your powerhouse forward. He was a very athletic, very, very strong player. But the two of them were just an absolute handful. Like you said, there was a couple of seasons that nobody was really able to handle them. When he went to Barcelona, it was a big loss to the team. It really was. We took a few seasons before we really found that kind of prolific goal scorer again. Mark Falco, who he'd partnered just before he left, he took over for a few seasons and he was quite a steady 20 goal a season kind of player. Archibald, strangely, although he never hit those kind of 30 to 40 goals a season, he always felt like he's the kind of player that could do it. It's just had that extra layer of finesse and quality when needed. But it all seemed easy as well for him. It's like with Hoddle, the iconic sort of shirt outside the shorts, and strolling around like didn't have a care in the world, and then suddenly, bang, it's in the back of the net. Great player. I think he's flattered to deceive even more for Scotland. I think he only got about 4 goals or something in about 30 games or something. But who cares? That's Scotland. For us, he was great.
Yeah, damn right.
Right, here we go. Now, first of all, I will say, you mentioned the tucked out shirt. The final player on this list was the king of the tucked in shirt. But we're now, listen, the Advent calendar was created and people will know about the player and my obsession with him. Iggy has an obsession. Kuva has an obsession. I think every single Ben has it's for me the crown.
It's Harry Biggs.
It's the crown jewel. It is the crown jewel. One of the things I've tried to do with certain players is find an iconic photo. For me, this man, nothing is more iconic than that. It is time to sit down and discuss the legend, Mr. Paul Gascoigne, Ben. Look at the smiles on my face. Is like, here we go. Go on, Benny boy.
He's possibly the best ever player to play for this football club. He's in the top 3.
Wow.
He's in the top 3, isn't he? There are a few players that are synonymous with Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. Greaves, Hoddle, Gascoigne. Those are the 3 best in the history of this football club. Any one of those could be anyone's top. Of course, you've had the Modric's, you've had the Kanes, you've had the Bales, you've had some serious players that have played for the football club. But Paul Gascoigne. I've talked with Brian about this quite a lot. As I thought, I think Brian, if you like, I could be talking about coffee. So, well, Paul Gascoigne.
Yes, yeah. My cat knows about Paul Gascoigne, and we've only had him for a month.
But that season we won the FA Cup, and he eventually went to Lazio. He dragged us to that final. He dragged us. We were awful, but we had Paul Gascoigne, therefore we were great. And that was all you needed, was if you had a Paul Gascoigne, and he was just the guy. He was the guy. He was the style. He was the class. He was the power. He was everything. If you could build a footballer, it's Paul Gascoigne. But that's just it. He had the character as well on the pitch. One of the stories they used to talk about at the old Chigwell training ground was the ball was booted over the fence. So Gascoigne said, "I'll go and get it." He didn't turn up the next day. He turned up over the fence in the morning. I've got it.
With a ball. Yeah.
I've got it. It's just everything. It's just everything. Everything was a laugh to him. He's just marvellous. We'll go to Iggy now.
Go on, Iggs.
Talk about
It's so hard to try and put him in a sentence per se. He incredibly, when you think about it, he gave us he played with us 2 seasons. It wasn't at Spurs. When you think about it nowadays, he wasn't at Spurs for a long period of time. But when you think of just how many moments he gave us in that time, compared to somebody perhaps has been at the club 7-8 years, as you can just about remember him, it isn't the case for Paul Gascoigne. Gascoigne was just phenomenal. For me, was the reason why I started following Spurs. The real reason behind it. It was at a time, a really weird time for me, because, like I said to you guys earlier, I'd just come to England, and obviously it's well known, my Italian team, AC, and so I needed to find something here in England to really support, to follow, because I knew that it's not, the levels of broadcasting, it wasn't as mass as it is now. It was a lot more difficult to try and get, you had to have a satellite back then, and not everyone had that luxury. So Gascoigne was that guy, Italian 90, and first World Cup, and he was just phenomenal. Played football like no others. He didn't form into the tactics. He made the extra. If you needed an extra man on the field, he would be the one. If you needed players to take on players, he would be the one. Create, drive, tenacity, confidence, everything you could want in the midfield. And you know what the incredible thing was? Other than the fact that in modern day football, in today's football, playing the way he played, taking on players, and the fouls not being as as to what that everyone gets. It'd be incredible player of today, and the help system he would have around him that probably was missing back then would have helped him even more so. But I want to bring it down to him. Like I said, trying to talk about this guy in one sentence is incredible. It's hard. It's really, really hard to do. But first pair of boots I bought was Puma Kings, because he was wearing them at the time. There's just so many things. The number 8. I'm a massive number 10 fan, but the number 8 that we were talking about today, it was all him. It was all him. He was the perfect number 8 footballer, box to box midfielder. Just had everything about him. And you're right, Koff, when you say about that cup run, he was phenomenal. And there's that penalty that he took in a cup as well, didn't he? I wrote it down on Rabona. That video came to light how many years after it all happened, because with some of us had even forgotten about it. And it's just tell me when you want me to stop, and I'll stop, because I don't know what Mark had had.
That's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem, because I got
You know what it is? I'm going to just tell a couple of stories that I know about him, obviously on the pitch, because Kuva and Iggy can cover the football. I'm lucky And
Met him twice as well, so I'm fortunate.
I've got a few personal stories with him. So, listen, what you talk about the FA Cup run? He started that FA Cup run by setting up your favourite Paul Stewart, Ben, with a goal, with a free kick at Blackpool, and he had nothing to do with every single game in that round. He scored in every single game, apart from he even had a say in the final. All right, it wasn't what we wanted. That nothing sums up. Well, the way I describe Paul Gascoigne is if you look at this Spurs team now, even when the full 11 are out, there's not a player that when they get the football, you're like, oh my God, something could happen magical right here, right now. Madison could get the ball and play a great pass, or Basuma can just move his body. Every time Paul Gascoigne got the football, you were on the edge of your seat and thought, any moment now, I'm going to see something that I'd never seen before. And nothing will sum it up. If you watch the Oxford game where we beat them 4-2 in the FA Cup, there was a piece of commentary where he scored 2, made 2. His first goal, we passed it backwards, forwards, sideways, backwards, and the crowd are just getting so annoyed because it's going nowhere. Paul Gascoigne picks the ball up on the halfway line. 4 seconds later, the ball's in the goal, where he's just ran past 4 players, played a 1-2, taken on the bang, and the commentary to it just backs it up. The best player in the World Cup 1990 in his first and only World Cup. But the stories I can tell of this man personally is I mentioned that Oxford game. At the time, his agent was a guy called Mel Steen, who just happened to be a member of my synagogue. His son got bar mitzvahed that morning, and Paul Gascoigne was at my synagogue. I think there were 3 or 4 people per chair. I've never seen a synagogue so packed. And it even got to the point where the rabbi went to give the sermon and said, listen, I think no one's here to hear me. And said for a joke, I think people want to hear Paul Gascoigne, up you come, Gaza. And he actually got up to do the sermon. And the rabbi was like, no, I'm only joking, sit down. But he was just prepared to do a sermon. Then he had to walk away early. And then literally, Devers just destroyed the team. And then obviously, I used to work in Harrods in 2000. And I worked in the sports department, and people that have been to the iconic Harrods know every single department's got like the doors you walk, or it's an open thing, but you walk through these little arches and you're into the next part of Harrods. And all the guys used to look for the hot women, all the girls looked for the hot men, and you saw celebrities non-stop. And I was standing right by those arches, and all of a sudden, Cheryl Gascoigne walked in. Everyone kept me going, "Boy, she's hot, she's hot." And I was like, you do know who that is? That's Cheryl Gascoigne. I said, if Cheryl's there, that means there's a very big chance. And Gaza walks through. And what I was meant to say, what I thought I said in my head, I actually went out loud, "Oh my God, Paul, I love you." And he looked at me and I was like, did I just say that out loud? He just looked at me and goes, "You're a Spurs fan?" I went, "Yeah." He goes, "Off you come." I went shopping with him the whole way around. He wouldn't let anyone else serve him. Served him up and down Harrods, and then the best thing we got to, this was back in the day before chip and pin. This is when people, when you had a credit card, they used to go like this, and you signed it, and it actually went through to authorization to checks. You have to phone up MasterCard, whoever it was, and when I had to read the card number, the person realised, goes, "Who's with you?" I was like, "Paul Gascoigne," and they're like, "The Paul Gascoigne." I'm like, "Yep, the Paul Gascoigne." And then they obviously spoke to him. He was the nicest, he is. He has got the biggest heart. He is an absolutely incredible human being. You just got to watch videos of him in interviews. When he scored that free kick, the interviews, there's scenes of him eating popcorn when he sees one of the nicest men in football.
Yeah. For
me, and I've said it, and I'll say it every single time I use the Brett the Hitman Hart slogan. For me, no matter who we sign for the rest of my life, Paul Gascoigne always will be the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. Bar none. We could sign Messi right now, and I would still say Paul Gascoigne is my favourite player. Doesn't matter. When you think about it, 92 games this guy played for us.
Yeah.
What an impact!
Incredible.
92 games.
But it's just incredible. It's just not the impact on the field, but off the field as well. It seems like you've got connections with him, and I think there's a lot of people that beyond us
Yeah.
that can say that if they had the fortune to meet him, how impactful he was. So it says there's beyond all, you know, everything, with all the problematics that he's had. You can see that there's in the heart of it there is a really top guy, generous guy who's, you know, if he had his last fiver he would give it to you. And you know what, and I had the fortune to meet him twice. The first time I met him, he wasn't at his best. He was very, very slim, very thin, and the first time I had ever met him was actually really worried about him. However, the second time I met him years later, he looked incredible. He had a lovely tan. I think he'd just come back from holiday to Spain, and he was doing the signing and stuff like that. And me and my son Joe happened to hear about him being nearby in Waltham Abbey, which is not too far from where I am. And I met him again, and this time around, he was in great spirits. He was smiley. He was. It was just like the old Gaza, and that is what I take away with me. And I'm just so glad that we can still be here and not talk about him in the past tense, which is what essentially everybody will probably be worried about. Yeah. But we still talk about him with him being still with us, which is always the most important thing. Is healthy and well, and long may it continue. But yeah, Gascoigne in that time when he was with us, he was brilliant. Have you noticed though, wherever he's gone, the fans, he's gone to Rangers, he's gone to Lazio, every fans of those clubs fall in love with him on the field and off it. So it's just
be that, Kuva. Me and Iggy have set the bar high. Off you go, sir. I'll
just live with the memories. That's fine.
Yeah, but there's like Euro '96. There's so much.
There is. You did a point I was going to make, and that's that every single club has adored him. Yeah. Absolutely adored him. You start off with him breaking through at Newcastle as a youngster, and he was obviously fond of a bit of home cooking and some Mars bars, famously. They worried about him not making the grade. They thought he would be too unfit, too slow. But he had this wild determination. I remember Chris Waddle talking about it. Yep. I said you could just see this unbelievable talent. And it's like, it didn't matter what he ate, what he drank, what he was going to, eat right before the match. He would just go out there and play with such passion and determination. And he said, Chris Waddle was saying, you literally thought, this is one of the fans. This is one of the fans playing. You get it's one of these fantasy stories like kid reading Roy of the Rovers in a comic and then thinking, I'm going to do that. But Gascoigne went and did that. And he just had this infectious personality, footballing talent to go with it. Everybody responded to him. And I think what made him so utterly appealing for the fans, especially after Italia 1990, when he's famously in tears. But even before that, you could see it. He was vulnerable. It's a man that had all this genius, but also he needed to be cuddled. He needed to be loved as well. And my God, he was. And when he was feeling great and getting that kind of adoration that he really desperately needed, he was the greatest player on earth. I'm always going to go back to Italia 90 because it's the only time I've ever seen it in my lifetime where a footballer is bigger than the tournament. It's for people in England, certainly. Gaza mania was real. This was like stuff you only saw from the Beatles or Elvis. Crowds going absolutely insane over him. We had him at the club with Gary Lineker. And it's like, oh my God, this is so brilliant. We did not have a good team at that point. We had some other good players, Gary Mabbott and stuff, legend. But right then, everything was about Gascoigne. And when you hear some of his peers talking about him, Lineker's always funny because he said Gaza would only pass you the ball on 2 occasions. Once when he wanted it straight back after he'd run into the new position, and second when he was knackered and you had to do something yourself. Yep. Otherwise, it was all about him on the ball doing everything, and he could do it. It's one of the few players I've ever seen can go up to a pack of 5 or 6 opponents and somehow dribble into the middle of them and come out the other side with the ball. It just doesn't happen. Even it's kind of this impossible strength that went with it while he did it, that Messi couldn't even do that part. Messi had all the talent in the world, obviously, but Gaza also had this incredible natural strength, and he'd hold his arms out and keep people away from him. And it's like people would just bounce off him. It was amazing to watch. But for me, you look at all the achievements he's had. He's won loads of stuff, accolades all over, loved everywhere. Amazing burst of skill. One of the most naturally gifted footballers England's ever had, if arguably the most naturally gifted. But you look at those vulnerable sides and you loved him for it. The cases where it turned up to I've forgotten the name of the escaped criminal, Moat or something his name was, I think it was.
Oh, Ralph Moat.
Gaza turns up with a bucket of KFC and some fishing rods or whatever it was, and you just think, other people were saying, how ridiculous that was, but I kind of understood it. And I know Brian and I have talked about this before. When you yourself are so broken you don't think you can fix yourself, you go and try and help somebody else. And that's part of his personality. It fits in what Iggy's saying about he would give you his last fiver because he knows it's not going to help him, but if it helps you, he feels a bit better about it. It's a medicating sort of thing. But anyway, back to him as a player. You looking at what his peers say about him, the accolades he gets from the likes of Alan Shearer and Lineker himself, everybody in that era, Paul Ince and things, saying the best midfielder he's played with. But the one that stands out for me, Jose Mourinho. Mourinho was at Newcastle with Bobby Robson. Sorry, he wasn't at Newcastle. He was more of the national team. So he was shadowed Bobby Robson, learned a lot of his trade from him. Bobby Robson was obviously picking Gaza and having a closer look at him. And Jose Mourinho later was asked about how good was Paul Gascoigne, and Mourinho just looked at the camera and goes, "He was the special one," and just walked off, left it. There's nothing more he could say. And that's from Jose Mourinho. You know what he's like with that phrase. Gaza, amazing. Entertainment, unbelievable, destructive force of nature on a football pitch. Scored wonderful goals. Match winner. Could do everything that everybody else could do, but do it better. Yeah. That's what they're all so scared of. He would make everybody else look like the clown and then act the clown himself. He just had everything. There's a West Ham fan I know really well. And back when he played for us, we played away at West Ham and Gaza had a blinder of a match. And this lad I know rang me up and he said, "That Paul Gascoigne, I've never seen anything like it. He's just completely destroyed our team. And I've seen George Best come here." And I thought, wow, that said it all for me. But absolutely love him. Cannot possibly say a bad word about the bloke.
I'm going to tell one more very quick story about it. I just ran very quickly. This will show the comedic value of him and the devastating football at the same time. People go and Google or YouTube after you've watched this. Spurs 3, Derby 0-1, Paul Gascoigne hat-trick. Just type in Gaza hat-trick Derby. He was away with England with Peter Shilton the week before this game. And they'd just been given phones. All the England players had just been given mobile phones. The bricks they would have been in the late 80s, early 90s. And Paul Gascoigne said to Peter Shilton, "Do me a favour, put your phone in the goal. And when I get a free kick, I'll phone you and I'll tell you where I'm going to put it." He scores the first goal. He scores 2 incredible free kicks. One of them even further probably than the Arsenal one. And you see him running away and he's pissing himself. He is pissing himself. And he went and spoke to Peter Shilton after. And let's just say Peter Shilton wasn't very friendly, the language that was used. But that's what this man did. But that Gaza done.
I don't know how we're going to go past this. We've got to really come down after that.
Yeah, I mean, well, we'll come down. We're talking about a player. Take a glimpse of this, people, because this is what we call a trophy and a Man of the Match award. We don't get to see it, mate, very often. Alan Nielsen, Ben.
I mean, this would have been the first trophy Tottenham won whilst I was alive, 1999, and I can't remember it. But George Graham team was probably a terrible football team because it's Tottenham in the 90s. But we won a trophy. I don't know too much about Alan Nielsen, but my word, he won a trophy, and we've had loads of players that ain't won a trophy. But he's won one, and he was man of the match that game.
Correct.
But I can't remember too much because I was only 4. But Iggy, what do you remember of Alan Nielsen?
His hair, funny enough, is small fella. He had his blonde locks. But yeah, man, like I said, any player that wins a trophy is almost immortalised that here at Spurs, and that's why I remembered, because I guarantee you, if he hadn't won anything, he would have been long forgotten. Yeah, I mean, what? How do you follow that up? You know, Gascoigne conversation and bring Nielsen up. It's tough. It's a real tough mind shift to try and go from one player to another. But look, like you said, played 97 times for Spurs, won trophy. He I guess he came, he conquered and left.
Well, you know what? The one thing I will say about him is he not reminded me, kind of Gus Poyet. He was nowhere near Gus Poyet's height, but you remember Gus Poyet had the knack to just be in the right place and run from midfield and find that space. We weren't even playing that kind of football, yet he managed to do it. You even look at that goal. That goal that won the cup against Leicester. That game was all about Ginola. Ginola got us there, like Gazza got us to the 91. And he wins this because he follows a run. The goalkeeper parries it out in like the 90th minute, and he's there to make the diving header. That was his knack. That was his skill. And we weren't even playing that type of football. But yeah, like Iggy said, you win a trophy, you're immortalised in this football club.
Especially the winning goal.
Yeah.
Especially the winning goal. And Kuva, finally, to talk about Alan Nielsen.
Yeah, it was kind of... He wasn't a special player. He was one of these reliable, sort of all-action, sort of guys stepping all over the pitch. Hard-working, good, very good on the ball, very good control of the ball, I should say. He didn't sort of give it away cheaply or anything like that. He just kind of made the team tick over a little bit. As Brian said, he had a knack for turning up for important goals for us. Mm-hmm. That is a skill you can't really teach. It's a sense more than anything. But Ben's right. If after following Paul Gascoigne, what can you really say about him? He won a trophy for us with a team that wasn't great, but George Graham had turned us into a cup side, genuine cup side at that point. A lot of fans hated George Graham, but I did at least appreciate that about us at the time, because we'd gone through some bad years.
He won us a trophy, man. He won us a trophy.
Cups to us have always been a big deal.
If he had us for a couple more years, I think he would have turned us into a side, like he turned that them lot down the roadside. He made a proper defensive unit over there, and he had a knack for making teams that were very difficult to beat. They wouldn't set the world alight, but they were hard working and they defended properly.
And contrary to popular belief as well, George Graham was quite happy to pick a few flair players. Ginola got to run out, didn't he?
He also tried to get rid of him as well. If you I think that's the part that me personally, it's the part that, whilst I appreciate that he won a trophy, Brian, we was at the Ginola, and he said it. You know, although he had his differences with him, many differences with him, he did say he brought him. He made him win a trophy at Spurs, so he appreciated him for that, whilst at the same time. And I think that's the one I never really forgave him for. Whilst, like, I'm a bit older now and I can appreciate what he tried to do, and we had a good cup run. It was like we had one, like with many dark clouds over that period of time, and that only bit of ray of sunshine was provided by Ginola, and he was like, nope, we need to get rid of that too. And I was like, I struggled with that as a kid. I do struggle with it a little bit, but
so we get to the last player, and like we said, we had the king of the tucked out shirt.
Yeah,
it's time for the king of the tucked in shirt.
Yeah,
and you know what? As I was doing this, I've been saying that. I was like, please tell me I found it. I was like, don't have a tucked out t-shirt when I say this. The king of the tucked in, but it was. I could trust it. Ben, you'll remember Scott Parker
Finally, a player I can actually remember. I loved Scott Parker at Tottenham. He was one of my heroes when I can't remember exactly when he joined. It's the Harry Redknapp era, just after the Champions League run. To be made captain, not like a couple of years after he joined, to be immediately made captain by Harry Redknapp. This was a proper captain of a football club. Honest, good on the ball. He was treated horribly by Andre Villas-Boas. He made him try and play a position he wasn't good at. He was a hard-working defensive midfielder that give and go. He made other players look better. That's what Scott Parker did. He'd give the ball and he'd give it to a better player. Like when you needed him, like we played Liverpool, we won against Liverpool at Anfield, which doesn't happen often. And the scenes I remember, he came off the pitch and he was covered in blood. Like he was a workhorse. He would die for the team on the pitch, and he was a brilliant captain for Tottenham in the few years he was here. Great for England as well. West Ham fans always remember him fondly as well as being he would have stayed at West Ham had West Ham not been run like a terrible football club, because they always have been a terribly run football club. He would still be at West Ham. The only reason he joined there is because they got relegated, and he wanted to join a team that wants to go places. Not that we did go places. He was a proper footballer, and we'll all remember him as being a very honest, good captain for the football club, and he was treated poorly. He was treated really poorly, and I still love Scotty Parker. We could do with a Scotty Parker right now. If someone to bring it all together, someone to be that leadership, what a great player. And he only played 50 games, which is unacceptable for me. What do you remember about Scotty Parker, Iggy?
You covered quite a bit of it. I think he's one of those guys that he would have stayed a lot longer at West Ham, it has to be said, if they hadn't, needed to get rid of him. And he'd have stayed just as long, probably longer at Spurs, more than 50 games for sure. If it hadn't been, for the reasons that you just mentioned. But look, some of the players like Paul Gascoigne had the talent, had the world at his feet. But then, behind the scenes, you have the players, your leaders, your captains, the ones that whilst you look for the Gascoigne in the match winner and resolve a situation, perhaps a goal, or give you a goal, or set up a goal. Scott is the kind of player that is the fighter in the team. He's your proper captain, where he's the last man standing will be him. And I thought he served us really well, man. I thought you said he was made captain straight away, so he was brought in for leadership skills that he had that we were clearly missing at that time when he joined us. And he did steady the ship for a long time for us. And he came at a time, a really, really delicate time for us, if you remember. And he was brilliant for us, fighter. And you know what? He's one of those players that he's always a 7 out of 10 every game. Yeah. And also, it's again for different reasons with Gascoigne, but he's really taken in by fans. You all appreciate the work, the dirty work that he does to allow all the other players who probably take the headlines to do their thing. But and as you get older, you do start to appreciate the base of any team, the base of a house, the solidity of a team comes through players and men of the Scotty Parkers. That enables all the others to do what they got to do and take the glory, so to speak.
Well, this is a guy that we should have signed from Charlton. We were interested. We didn't. I'm not going to go into why, but I think people will know when I'm saying
it's Christmas, festivities, remember?
We were every single time he was up, we should have grabbed him. It's so annoying that we only got him at this time. What people should remember, a little fun fact, I don't know if people actually know this. Do you remember, Iggy, Kuva, you'll definitely remember, Ben, you weren't around, so you won't remember. Italian 90, there was a McDonald's advert of a boy doing kick-ups. That's Scott Parker.
Really?
That kid was Scott Parker. Like Iggy spoke about, like you spoke about, Ben, we have Van der Vaart, Bale, and Adebayor that season running absolute riot. Gareth Bale, obviously, the reason they could do that was because of this man right here, Aaron Lennon.
True.
The reason they could do it was this man here. Out of all these players that we've spoken about, we spoke about legends. If you want to talk about one person that you always know would give you 150% and would literally run through a brick wall and play injured or do whatever, that man is Scotty Parker. I think that's it. I remember a 4-0 win against QPR where Van der Vaart and Bale destroyed QPR. Yeah. I said that match, Scott Parker was man of the match. And Van der Vaart and Bale tormented them. That goes to show how good this man was. And it was so... I was so annoyed that we only got him for that play. He even left us and went on to Fulham.
He done really well there as well.
Incredible at Fulham. A fantastic player that we didn't have for long enough.
He made a difference wherever he went. Like he brought in what his qualities, which was we've just highlighted. It's just a shame though. The only shame, obviously, upon looking at this statistics, that he never got to score one single goal for us, sadly, and that's. We couldn't really celebrate that with him. But
it's not what he did though. He was just a hard-working guy. He was a selfless footballer that gave it to the players he thought could do better. He was.
But also, it's also Ben. He wasn't a fan of theatrics. You know, when people like he was just like, "Come on, let's get on with it. Let's go." Let's go. Crack on with it.
Before we go to Kuva as well, I have to say as well. I don't know if you realise. You said without a goal, people that are watching this show will start to realise. We'll talk about certain players that have won a plethora of trophies. And then we'll get to a certain time period where there's no trophies.
Christmas, it's Christmas.
It just goes to show we've had great players like this in great teams.
Yeah.
That just haven't got the job done. Even Alan Nielsen has won a trophy.
Yeah.
And Scott Parker was by far a better player and made the team better. Kuva, over to you.
Yes, Scott Parker, easy, consummate professional. He did not have the flair and technical ability of other players, but he knew that. He made no bones about that. He knew that his role for a team was to work his socks off and do the basics of playing football to the best of his ability in every game. Yeah. What he gave every team he played for was stability and a base to build all their play off. He holds teams together. He was one of the best at the time of doing this. Playing for got England call-ups for it as well. Took a lot of stick-ups, I think, playing for England as well. Always unfairly, but he is that one that other players will totally appreciate. Fans generally might not have. You knew what you were seeing if you watched him week in, week out for your club. But when you see him just pop up occasionally, you probably think, just a hard worker or something. No, there's so much more. There's leadership quality. Whether he was captain or not, it didn't matter. He was still leading on the pitch. Some players, it's just a natural thing. Scotty Parker, he knew he'd keep the passes simple. But if you're surrounded with quality players like your Bales, your Van der Vaarts, he knew just get the ball into them. They're going to do the rest. All he's got to do is hold his position, show a bit of authority, do the hard work when you need to do it, and work your socks off. He was very much part of that. I remember those the Harry Redknapp side going into the Champions League, and some games where we were pressing the other team off the pitch. It was unreal. Going in packs, hounding down the opposition, and it was always Scotty Parker in amongst that pack of players. He seemed to be all over the pitch all the time, and he was just like a driving force. Yeah. He was absolutely fantastic for us.
He would have been quite for Ange Kuva.
Yeah, absolutely.
We had him under Pochettino as well. I think he would have been brilliant under Pochettino.
Yep.
Just like Wanyama was. Because Wanyama also wasn't a flashy footballer, but he gave it to Moussa Dembele. Yep, there you go. There's the ball, mate.
I always like to think of it in terms of, for me, one of my favourite players for the club, Steve Perryman. Captain, fantastic. I always like to think it's Steve Perryman. If he had played alongside him, he would have just gone, yep.
I get it. Yeah, he would have said, I understand why. It's football. Football's a team game, so you need to provide chemistry and players that gel. You have the talented player and then you have those hard-working players. Without the other doesn't function, and he's the perfect example of that.
That is the perfect way to wrap up Scott Parker and to wrap up the edition. You see what I did there? Wrap up. Present.
I get it. Brilliant.
It's like we're doing this as we go along. We're getting a lot of practice here. The Christmas puns are coming thick and fast now, but a great edition. Before we say our goodbyes, Kuva, thank you very much indeed. Where can people find you, brother?
Touchwood will be on Kuva and the Kang. I'll be on with Bobby K on Friday evenings now because he's now doing football practice with his lads on the Saturdays. So he's a bit poorly at the moment with flu, but hopefully we're on Friday night and we'll do the usual absolutely stupidity, pointless little program pretending it's something to do with football when it isn't. And people tend to like it.
Because it's day 8, it's also a Friday. So when this video is aired, tonight will be Kuva and the Kang. So
I'm going to add to that as well that I hope Bobby is feeling better, seeing that this will be coming out on December the 8th. Yeah. And this may or may not have been recorded a few days or so earlier. Iggy, my brother, first of all, congratulations on 150 for Tottenham away. Strength. Where can people find you, sir?
Before we do that, Bobby, get well soon, mate. And remember, where does Santa go when he's sick? To the health centre.
He couldn't remember to bring one. He's brought 2. There you go.
You're right, Brian. I didn't think about this. If you're still sick by the time this goes out, pull yourself together, mate.
It's Kuva, in it, but
we could do this for another hour easily. Just don't crack us up.
We could, but Iggy, you're plugged for Tottenham away, bro.
Tottenham away, mate. Yes, we got shows all the time. Wednesday with Mari, Thursday with Mari. We've got Friday night shows. We've got the match along and Good Morning Tottenham when I have time to do them at the moment because I can't do them with work. Is great, but you guys can find us on Tottenham away. Make sure you hit the subscribe, hit the like button, and without the like button, make sure the notification bell, which every time we go live or anything's uploaded, you can find us there if you wish to do so. Otherwise, if not, have a great Christmas, everyone. Be happy.
That was a party political broadcast for Tottenham away. Back to our.
Thank you.
Iggy's just trying to get out of doing the washing up again, isn't he?
Damn right.
You wouldn't believe what Sophie's doing right now. I told you.
That's that for the 8th day of the Tottenham on Tour Advent calendar. From everyone here at Tottenham on Tour, we wish you a wonderful Christmas and festive period. Have a safe time. Have a great time. Keep warm. And thank you all so much. Come on, you Spurs. And we'll see you on the next one. Ciao for now.